Hello and welcome to Moment of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. So, after going after some of the most vulnerable people in society, old folks in care homes, cancer patients, refugees, unaccompanied child refugees, the homeless, single mothers, menopausal women, trans people, trans kids, the mentally ill, physically disabled, not to mention gunning for other minority groups such as EU citizens living here, travellers and the rest, and the millions forced to use food banks now to survive, the Tories now have a new target, one that will not come as a shock to anyone who's been paying attention for the last 13 years. They've decided it's children with special educational needs and disabilities who desperately need taking down a peg or two. I mean, for God's sake, when will this nightmare end? A piece in The Observer over the weekend revealed a covert deal to cut help for pupils in England with special educational needs by 1/5. The Tories quietly signed a contract targeting 20% cuts to the number of new educational plans for children with special educational needs and disabilities, or SEND, in order to bring down costs. After all, the money for all those dodgy PPE contracts needs to come from somewhere, right? Then Junior Education Minister Claire Coutinho, recently promoted to Cabinet as Energy Secretary, subsequently lied to MPs that no such targets were in place. They were, and The Observer has the receipts. These cuts come as councils across England are struggling with huge financial deficits on SEND budgets caused by a combination of rising demand and long-standing underfunding from this cruel and pitiless Tory government. Part of the government's response has been the launch of the Delivering Better Values in SEND programme, or DBV, which supports over 50 councils to bring down their large SEND budget deficits through measures such as early intervention and teaching children with special needs in mainstream schools. In June 2022, the Department for Education, or DfE, signed a £19.5 million contract with consultancy firm Newton Europe to design and develop this programme. The deliverables section of this contract states that it is the intention of the signatories that the 55 councils' budget management plans implemented under the programme will help achieve impacts that include, and I quote, reducing cost pressure as a result of reduced growth in the number of EHCPs, which are Educational Health and Care Plans, targeting at least a 20% reduction in new EHCPs issued. The contract states that the impacts will be measured by monitoring these EHCP growth rates and the state of the council's education budgets. Because EHCPs often require specialist education provision for children, some of which is only available from expensive private special schools, rising EHCP caseloads have meant higher costs for councils, with government funding not keeping pace, to the surprise of no one. This has sparked fear from parents that special educational needs and disability children might be denied the support that they require to function, to learn, to flourish as they grow up in this increasingly bitter and heartless nation. Brexit Britain, there for everyone, as long as you're filthy rich. Gillian Doherty of the campaign group Send Action has said, aside from potential legal implications, this action will simply push the funding problem down on mainstream schools, which are already in a state of acute financial and recruitment crisis. This is irresponsible behaviour that will seriously undermine inclusion. It will also result in a two-tier system that severely disadvantages disabled children in local authorities with financial difficulties. Irresponsible behaviour and two-tier systems, that just about sums the Tories up, doesn't it? We all know kids with special educational needs, whether they're our kin or the children are our friends. As ADHD, autism and neurodiversity in general become better understood and better diagnosed, funding for these services should be going up, not down. But if you're rich, your child can opt out of the state education system and you can go down the private route. You don't even need to pay VAT on that. How is that fair? How is that right? Or, even more outrageously perhaps, the taxpayer picks up the bill to send a child with special educational needs to a private school, one of these not-for-profit places that pays its staff up to 3 times the going rate, sometimes over £100,000 a year, while teachers in state schools are having to use food banks to stay alive. Our education system should be for everyone, but every year under the Tories it is failing more and more of our children, and this isn't an accident. There is real malice here and the message is clear. The only thing that the Conservatives hate more than Britain is the British. Is it any wonder that only 2% of young people aged 18 to 24 intend to vote Tory in the next election? 2%! Hey Tories, the party's over.